jungles of Chult to destroy the cause of this terrible affliction. Vale, the half-elven paladin who's just now learning of his divinely granted powers. Ubo, the total monk from a distant land who's as quick with his wit as he is with his staff. Brilinya, Aasimar warlock sent on this quest by her temple, discovering herself in this strange new land. And Gunslinger Cole, tiefling artificer and archaeologist who may just dig up more than she bargained for. This motley band of adventurers must work together to brave the poisonous plants, venomous monsters, thundering dinosaurs, and rotting undead of the jungle. Join the omnipotent dungeon master Jake from Mini-Terrain Domain to see if our heroes can find the soulmonger, uncover the deeper mysteries of Chult, and free the world from the death curse. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to Chult of Personality.
Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini-Terrain Domain, and this is the finale of Chult of Personality, the Tomb of Annihilation campaign that we have been playing for 3 years and 8 months. This is episode 71. Over 210 hours of slogging through the jungles of Chult, and a few character deaths, a few player changes along the way. And I was just talking to the players before we started about the fact that this is the game that started Mini-Terrain Domain on Twitch back in so that would be what, November of 2017? Is that right? Is my math right on that, Connor? You're my math guru. 2018? I thought it was 2017. Anyway, yeah, November of 2018. Hold on, I'm trying to fix something with the overlay. Always fidgeting. There we go, close enough. But yeah, this was the start of it. Back when I had a janky system that could barely handle the video, and we were using Skype, and our first two VODs, maybe three, are audio only, because the video just looked terrible, but the audio was great. But I just want to say, before we get going here in a few minutes, I told them off air, but it has been a joy and an honor to play this campaign with these four individuals. Mike and M have been here since the very beginning. Vale and Brilinya, their characters are their original characters from that they've taken from level 1 all the way to level 14. And Connor joined probably about midway through our run, I want to say, and then Kaeryn joined in about 20 or so episodes ago, a little over 20 episodes ago. And Connor, in that short time, is already on his second character. But Karen's playing her same character she's had the whole time. And we've all worked together to tell some amazing stories and just bring us to this point. In our last episode, actually, before I get into the recap, I'm going to keep announcements super short tonight, because I want to get into this gameplay and really have some time to enjoy our last session together in this particular game. All of us play together in other games regularly, so it's not like this is the end of us playing together, so that's great. In fact, you'll be able to see Mike and Em and I will be back here tomorrow night with the start of a brand new campaign, so, or continuation of an ongoing campaign, but with a new section. But although I just want to draw your attention down to our usual partners. You know, we were partnered with Jasper's Game Day. You can type !Jasper in the chat at any time. Get a link to where you can donate to help fund suicide crisis centers around the country. You can also purchase coffee by typing !Coffee with our partner Initiative Coffee Company. You can get a bag of Metida roast coffee. And for every 12-ounce bag you purchase, $3 of that's going to go to Jasper's Game Day. And all these links will also pop up occasionally throughout the chat during the game. We don't have them on the overlay right now, but and I do want to type this one in because this is a partner of ours. We are partnered relatively recently with Talon and Claw, makers of fine wooden gaming accessories, DM screens, dice vaults, trays. Their new whiskey barrel Kickstarter. There's a link where you can get in on through the Pledge Manager to pre-order a whiskey barrel dice vault along with other things they have there, and type in code MTD Claw and you'll get 10% off of your order when you check out. And then the last thing I want to say is the thing that we always take a moment to let everybody know before we start these games that we use is our form of escape. And for some of us, it's a catharsis. It's a form of therapy. But it's important that you know that no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, and whether or not you believe it, you matter. Your presence on this earth makes a difference. It can be a struggle, especially in the way things are going in the world in the last several months. Just know that there is help available for you out there. We are doing our part in providing direct access to that help. At any time, you can come to Mini Terrain Domain chat, whether we're on air or off air, and you can type in the words !help, as the big bearded nerd has just done in the chat. And a number of resources that are also scrolling along the bottom of the stream here will show up. And we encourage you to, if you need the help, do not hesitate. Reach out and talk to a professional. In the United States, you can reach out to the National Suicide Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text 741-741. If you are active duty military or a veteran of the armed services, you can type the number 1 after calling that number and be connected with a military specialized counselor. In Canada, you can reach the crisis text line by texting the word connect for English or parler for French to 686-868, or you can call the Canada Suicide Prevention Services in French or English toll free at 1-833-456-4566. If you are among our friends around the world, you can visit opencounseling.com/suicide-hotlines, and that will take you directly to a page that has phone numbers and text numbers and other resources for helplines around the world. Please use those resources if you need them. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a recap, and then we are going to get going into the actual game. And actually, I see that little meta cheer going on in there. We're gonna throw in a extra domain die for that, and I believe I saw that somebody subscribed or resubscribed, one or the other. I just know that I saw that, so I'm gonna give you another domain die. You have 14 domain dice here in the finale, and I'm gonna let you, the players, decide. Okay, we'll make that 15. I'm going to let you, the players, decide at the end of this game, whatever domain dice are left, you can bequeath them to any other Mini Terrain Domain game. You can decide who's going to get those. So I'll keep an eye on that for throughout the game to see as if any more of those come in. Our adventure began in Baldur's Gate, where the original adventuring party, including Vale and Brilinya, were hired by Sindra Sylvain, who wanted to hire the players to find the cause of the death curse that was plaguing the realms, in which anybody who had ever been resurrected had started to deteriorate and die, including Sindra herself. Also, Resurrection magic no longer worked. The dead stayed dead. So in her upper room of her house in Baldur's Gate, she hired these adventurers to head off to the faraway jungle land of Chult to meet up in Port Nyanzaru and begin their adventure. She traveled with them along through a teleportation, and they arrived in the fantastical city of Port Nyanzaru, where dinosaurs roamed the streets as service animals, and were raced illegally by night, as we saw in an early episode, Port Nyanzaru Drift, where the characters, or rather the players, got to take on the roles of other characters who were street racing dinosaurs throughout the night. They took up a guide and they began working their way through the jungle looking for clues, eventually learning that they were heading toward a place called Omu, the lost city of Omu, and that they were looking for the tomb of the 9 gods. Along their journey, Brilinya discovered that their companion, Gunslinger Cole, was in fact her half-sister. That the two of them were siblings, spawned between the mating of an angel and a demon with a shared parent. Not long after this revelation, Gunslinger Cole was violently killed after an exploration of a small tomb during a dinosaur attack. But Brilinya picked up Gunslinger Cole's journal and kept it with her, still has it with her to this day. Not long after that, they met up with a Chultan local who was on his own adventure of self-discovery, Dunala, who joined up with them and began traveling along with them for quite a while. In fact, parts of his story becoming integral to them as they learned about his own background. At the time, he was part Yuan-Ti, having once been transformed into a Yuan-Ti from his Chultan form. Slowly, he was able to begin reverting into his Chultan form. But, as I'm vamping trying to find this note, for this key piece of information, because I have it in my notes here, one of the few notes I actually take, Dunala was also trying to save his daughter Adesnia, who was afflicted with the death curse. Unfortunately for these adventurers, as they traveled along, making friends and enemies along the way, they found themselves in the company of an individual by the name of Irik. That part wasn't unfortunate. But Irik, hailing from the monastery of Kirsabal, became a companion for them until a fateful encounter with 2 warlocks who feebled his mind, and he flew away into the distance, not knowing even who he was. They were joined up later by Dunala's longtime friend, the half-orc Qualu. As Irik, before he was feeble-minded, his mother, the leader of the Kirsabal monastery, had performed a special ritual that allowed them all to fly to the entrance to the lost city of Omu. While traveling through there and dealing with the numerous trickster gods and finding that they were encountering the puzzle cubes needed to gain entry to the tomb, Brilinya came face to face with her own demons, as along their adventures she had been captured and tortured in a pocket dimension by her one-time leader of their sect, known as the Weeping Friars. But in the ruins of the lost city of Omu, Brilinya and her party members were able to eliminate the threat that was Brother Mateus. Also along the way, and culminating in an encounter near the region of Nangalore within the lost city of Omu, Vale found out or came face to face with his patron as he learned that he was a chosen one of Ubtao, the one-time favored god of the land of Chult. Ubtao bestowed blessings upon all of the party, and particularly blessed Vale with increasing abilities and power. They encountered the hiding place of the Yuan-Ti and their leader Rosnasi, who was quickly overthrown by his one-time right-hand person, Fenthraza, who quickly took over and immediately placed an ultimatum before the characters in the form of Adesnia, Dunala's daughter, holding on to her, keeping her as a sort of ransom, sending them forth into the tomb, giving them the puzzle cubes, the remaining puzzle cubes they needed to gain entry, in exchange for something called the Black Opal Crown, during the retrieval of which Vale sacrificed his arm, his right arm, his dominant arm, from the elbow down. A while after entering, well, shortly after entering the Tomb of the Nine Gods, in a very unfortunate incident involving a very deep pit, an adamantine fan, and a persistent mimic, Dunala was pulled to his death. Not long after Dunala's death, the adventurers discovered an elven woman, an archer, wandering the tombs. She was the last remaining living member of her adventuring party, the Company of the Yellow Banner. As she would learn as they continued to descend deeper into the tomb, finding time and again former members of her party, deceased or otherwise corrupted by the tomb. They also learned that though Taliel thought she was in the tomb for only 3 days, she had in fact been wandering the tomb for over a year, learning yet another secret to Acererak's tomb. They delved deeper and deeper, constantly facing the threat of death, dealing with untold puzzles, dangers, coming ever so close to permanent death more times than even they are aware, until they found themselves on the final level, opening up into the cradle of the death god, where they found the very thing they had been seeking for so long, the Soulmonger, a magical canister suspended in a chamber of lava by adamantine brackets, with tentacles, and an otherworldly creature known as an Atropol, a deformed, demonic space baby, basically, that immediately attacked them as soon as they destroyed the Soulmonger. In that interim, between the destruction of the Soulmonger and facing off against the Atropol, they did witness, both Brilinya and Qualu, the souls of Gunslinger Cole and Dunala passing into the beyond, freed from the Soulmonger. As soon as the Atropol was defeated, Acererak himself emerged to shut them down for good. But the chosen champion of Ubtao, Vale Istafall, stepped in with nothing short of the power of a god, defeating Acererak in but 2 blows. Acererak lay dead and gone, his instruments lying at their feet just outside of a gate of mist. Brilinya picked up Acererak's staff, deciding against keeping it for herself, and lest it fall in anyone else's hands, decided the best course of action was to dispose of it into the lava, dropping it 20 feet down below them, straight into the lava. the staff exploded in a brilliant burst of explosive magical energy, dealing severe damage to some of the party and sending them all careening backwards through the Gate of Mist, where they all lie prone on a stone floor in the next room. And that is where we pick up with tonight's final episode of Chult of Personality, an episode that I have entitled The Hall of Finality. So, I'll give you all a moment before I describe the room. In the aftermath of this blast, the last thing you remember is Brilinya, is the staff hitting the lava and then a brilliant flash. And in this moment, all there is this ringing in your ears and you're just gaining your bearings. We'll start with Brilinya, and then each of you go around and just describe what your feeling is and how you're reacting as you sort of regain your senses.
So I think that Brilinya, it's kind of one of those moments where, in the absence of any outside noise, is when she could really hear her own heartbeat. Through the ringing, through the confusion, she hears the steady rhythm of her own heart, beating quite quickly, full of adrenaline. And at one point, just becomes acutely aware of the other and their heartbeats, though most likely just in her mind, thinking of this. She can hear the others. She becomes aware of not only the three others, but also the ones who they have lost. That being Cole and Junala. She hears them as well, though far away. Very, very far away. And she feels as though she's just lost, just for a moment, just hearing the beats, hearing nothing else but that, and being suspended for a moment in that silence. And then just as quickly, she is able to just regain her sense, her drive, her the emotions just come flooding back, where they are, what they've just done, but what they still need to do. And all of this takes place in the moment of her kind of having herself stand back up from being blasted and falling to the ground.
Anybody can go next.
Balu is dazed, confused, concerned. He kind of feels the ground around him, the dust and the rubble from this explosion. He grimaces at the idea of being trapped in some strange machine of death, like he was before. But as soon as he realizes his safety, relative safety at least, he's relieved as he groans to get up to onto one foot, which apparently now is actually a hoof instead of a regular foot. And he would lean over to help someone else up with a furry arm. Now this goat curse has almost completely overtaken him. You don't look too bad.
I feel terrible, Taliel would say, as the blast kind of took her by surprise and just flung her to the ground prone, and she was lying there just hurting everywhere. And as she's trying to figure out if she's broken anything or if she's still alive, this furry arm would come down and she sees Kualu, and the haze of pain kind of recedes a bit as she focuses on that. What happened?
Remember, only it went boom.
Are we all okay? And she'd be looking around to see how everyone else is doing, seeing Brilinya there, and looking, where's Vale?
Yeah, and I would kind of slowly open my eyes, realizing that a Sararak is no more. Smile and instinctively look down at my arm, thinking that it was just some curse. All I had to do was destroy a Sararak, and my arm would be back, and everything would be back to normal. And then still seeing a, I guess for lack of a better term, just a completely like a missing arm. It all kind of comes back to me. I remember the explosion. I remember getting pushed through a gate of mist, landing into something made of wood that hurt and broke. I just kind of sit up. So I think we made a bit of a mistake putting those items into the lava. So I think we've all learned something. Don't do that. But at least this means a Sararak, if he comes back, is going to have to forge something all new and evil. There are bits of me that hurt. Is everyone else all right?
I'm good to go.
As you are all pulling yourself back up from from the ground and getting your bearings, you look around and realize that you are standing in front of another mist gate like the one you just passed through. You are at the end of a longer room. This room is 30 feet to your left, or 15 feet to your left and right, 30 feet wide, and is about 45 feet long. You are in an underground chapel with black basalt pillars and a polished obsidian altar. Resting on the altar is a leather bag the size and shape of a human body, and which appears to have been sewn shut. Just beyond the altar, you can see a heavy black drape hanging from an archway. 8 emaciated, green-skinned creatures are shackled to the walls of the chapel, each one gazing towards you with a single baleful eye. The monsters begin to gibber and drool as you rise to your feet, and they begin shaking their manacles. You hear the chains rattling against the wall. They seem to be struggling, looking to be free. You hear their babbled, garbled speech. Does anybody here speak Undercommon?
Didn't one of us get something? that allowed us to speak anything? I think it was me, potentially.
Is that one of the charms with the
Yeah.
toys?
Like the toy. I'm just trying to find it.
Oh yeah, I think it's the clay one, isn't it?
Ah, yes. You have your dolls that are still with you
Yeah.
from the Sohn sisters. I believe Straw Bundle is with Brilinya. Clay No Face was with Qualu, wasn't it?
I have the one where I don't have to eat any food.
And Taliel has the monkey.
Joho.
Joho.
Right?
The monkey with
Yeah.
the unicycle legs.
And while he's with me, I can comprehend languages.
Ah. So you are alone, can understand as these creatures are shaking their manacles and they're pleading with you to be set free. You just hear all of them. Let us go! Let us free! Aserak seeks to use us! Let us free!
Why has he put you here?
We are
can
the
I say it
damned,
back?
the imprisoned, the playthings of Aserak the Lich. Let us free! He's imprisoned us here! We are to be a part of his ritual and we want no part in this! Let us free! The rest of you literally just hear this. You have no idea what they're saying.
What ritual? What was he doing?
About half of them turn their single eye towards the body bag sewn shut on the altar. When the Adrabul has had its fill of souls, he seeks to bathe it in the blood, to baptize it in the blood of a sacrifice. Set us free! Unchain all manacles!
Taliel would turn back to Qualu, and then realizing that none of them could understand what she's just heard, she would relay that information. These creatures have been chained here against their will, as Sarak was going to use them in some ritual, something foul. Going to bathe that thing in blood. And she would approach the body bag.
There is a wisdom that I once heard from perhaps my uncle's dog's friend's cousin's betrothed. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. Or was it the friend of your enemy is your enemy? Perhaps friend is your enemy. Nonetheless, I agree with you, Taliel.
Me too. I think this is horrible what has been done to them.
Yeah. Maybe we should have a look to see who's in that bag then.
I imagine the view from just behind the altar. The camera sort of rising up over this body bag as we see first Taliel slowly, cautiously approaching, and then we see Vale, Brilinya, and Qualu behind her. We hear the rattling of the chains, Taliel, as you grow closer. The body bag seems to be humanoid size and shape, a bit irregular in places, sewn shut, made of an undetermined leather. There is no movement coming from it.
I think she would draw her, I guess, the edge of her longsword across some of the sewn against the seam and cut it open.
You stick the tip of your longsword with skill. It's a steady blade. And with a flick of a wrist, you slice open some of the stitches. The first thing that you may notice is rising from this body bag, you catch hints of violets, roses, the strong scent of brimstone. Brilinya and Vale, these scents are familiar to you. As the opening of the body bag falls aside, and you see Dragonbait, the Sariel companion of Artis Cimber, lying in repose in this bag. Qualu, I don't believe you ever encountered Dragonbait. Did you? No, and I know Taliel didn't. So only Vale and Brilinya would recognize this individual.
Wait, is Dragonbait moving or?
Doesn't appear to be moving from where you're standing.
Well, I think Brilinya would immediately run over, maybe even calling out Dragonbait's name as she runs over.
And Taliel and Qualu, you see immediate recognition from Brilinya. She runs up to this figure. So that you're aware, Dragonbait is humanoid, but is a Sariel. I always forget which one it is. But he looks almost like a humanoid dinosaur. He has sort of an elongated head. He's a little over 5 feet tall. He has a tail, greenish skin. And Brilinya, you had actually developed enough of a relationship with him that you understood his sense, his sort of forms of communication. And you would recognize that those scents, as you're rushing up, the scent of violets are danger and fear. The scent of roses is sadness, and the pervasive scent of brimstone is confusion. What do you do as you rush up to Dragonbait?
Immediately, she would go to hold like Dragonbait just in like this great hug, and to see if he's alive, if he's hurt. Careful not to move him too much, but immediately just seeing if he's how much healing he's going to be, if that's possible.
Give me a medicine check.
15.
He is alive. He is unconscious. I would like you to make an Arcana or a Religion check.
That is a dirty 20 for a Religion check.
As you're looking over him, you sense that this slumber is not typical. That there is some sort of otherworldly magic at play here. And the only way to end his unconsciousness and to revive him is to splash him with holy water.
So I think immediately, Vale, you would see Berlinya's face turn to you in this almost like helpless panic. He's not waking up. He needs holy water.
Hang on a minute. Trying to look at all the spells, like, can I do anything?
Unless you have a create holy water spell.
I got create food and water spell.
We can take that water skin and like I got a knife. I can just like pop, pop, some holes in it.
So I don't really have a whole lot in the way of spells, though.
I think ceremony was like one of the only ones that you can like make holy water.
Probably, yeah, but I didn't take that because,
Yeah,
as you don't, especially in this scenario.
makes sense. Yep.
So I'm guessing lay on. Oh, wait a minute. There's something I can do. Hang on a second here. Yes. I'm going to walk up to him. Okay. For some reason, I had this sudden panic moment that it's like, Mike, you're muted, because that's my life. So I'm going to walk up to him, and I'm going to just kind of bend down and put my hands.
Hand.
Hand. Right. and I'm going to use my cleansing touch. And I can use my action to end one spell on yourself or on one willing creature.
This is a paladin feature.
It is.
As you do this, you you can feel the magic that was used to put Dragonbait to sleep resisting. I would like you to tell me how you are going to beseech Ubtao and what skill you're going to roll against to see if you can push past this magic and use your clenching touch to bypass this magic.
Okay. So I'm just holding out my left hand, and say, Ubtao, please, I beg you, let me restore Dragonbait. I will pay what cost it needs. I will do what I need to do. But he is a good fellow companion. And this world would be a much darker place without him. So please, name your price and I shall pay it. Even if I may never get my hand back. I do what I can to help this person out. And I guess charisma?
Straight charisma, or are you going to do a persuasion, or?
Persuasion, I guess, yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead and give me the roll.
Ugh, that is a 16.
All right. You have 17 domain dice available if you wish to use a domain die.
You know what?
Same for the big boss, all right?
No. I'll use a domain die. Why not? Actually, I have to use them all up before everyone agrees to use it for all the glitters. So, yeah, that's some big brain thinking right there. You will all suffer in the mad mage's dungeon. Yeah, so I'll do that, and I'll re-roll. All right. That's a 21. It's better, at least.
right. As you are praying to Ubtao, beseeching him for his help, you are holding your left hand, and your right arm, you find yourself moving as if you still have your right arm in hand. And you're making these motions over Dragonbait's body. And all of you notice as Vale begins to radiate, as if just a very dim light is shining from within. And I imagine Vale has his eyes closed and doesn't even realize this, as you are praying over and making this deal with Ubtao. And you all watch as this light intensifies from Vale's center. And then the glow seems to move down his arm. And you watch as Vale's right arm from the elbow down seems to reform from pure light, until at the very end, from elbow to fingertips, Vale has a limb made of pure radiant energy. And as the final light transfers into this limb, there's a pulse of light. And below him and below you, Brilinya, you see Dragonbait. Vale, you open your eyes and you see that you have a right arm made of radiant light. As this spell and this sort of Ubtao infused magic fades, so too does the light that forms your right arm. But it doesn't go away. Where your right arm once was, you now have a spectral right hand. It's very faint, but it's there. You can actually feel your fingers in that right arm. Dragonbait has not woken up per se yet. He did give a big catch of breath, but you know, Vale, that you ended that spell, and that it seems that Ubtao has blessed you.
Probably just murmur, actually just mouth a thanks as I kind of like look, well, through my hand. And I'll look to Dragonbait to make sure that, he's kind of okay to a degree.
So, mechanically speaking, a quick note, you no longer have disadvantage. This is as as Kaeryn said, it is a phantom limb. It is essentially a magic item. You can use it as your focus for your paladin magic. It has the ability to touch things, do whatever. You also can permanently, at will, use it to cast Mage Hand. And you can, at will, cause it to glow brilliantly, and cast bright light up to 30 feet and dim light up to another 30 feet. If you want to find a, technically you would need, I was going to say you could use the prosthetic limb magic item, but that requires attunement. This is permanently attuned to you naturally because it is now a part of you and it's god magic. Brilinya, you see Dragonbait beginning to stir, and his eyes sort of flutter open. He looks around, and as he sees you, you immediately catch a strong scent of lemon, which you know to be joy. As he sort of pulls himself up to a sitting position and looks around. He seems to be in a weakened state. He is only wearing his small clothes, basically. All of his armor and weapons are nowhere to be found. He just looks around at all of you with a sort of questioning. You sense that little bit of a scent of ham, which always denoted nervousness or worry. He seems genuinely pleased to see all of you, but also very concerned about where he is, how he got here, and the fact that all of you look in pretty bad shape. Meanwhile, the creatures are still clamoring. They did silence during Vale's magical transformation, but seeing Dragonbait awake, they are now shaking their chains again. And Taliel, you hear them in Undercommon as they are shaking their things and saying, "No, Serac will be angered. You are taking his sacrifice. He means to baptize the creature. Free us now. Free us."
Serac is gone.
There is immediately silence from them. And then one of them speaks up. "Then set us free."
Taliel would look towards Koalu. Will you help? And
Of
she
course.
gestures towards the creatures on the wall.
Vale, I believe, has a set of keys.
I do, yeah. And remembering them, I'll head over and kind of begin to unlatch them. Before I do, though, yeah, with my new arm, hell yeah. Before I do, though, I'll probably ask them, "Do any of you know how to get out of here?"
It gibbers at you, but you hear it, Taliel, as where is it? As the one nearest Vale that he seems to be hesitating by just says, "Set us free. We'll show the exit. We'll show you the way."
I'll be translator. I'll say back to Vale what the creature said to me.
Will you set it free then, Vale?
Yeah.
All right. You set the first one free, and as his arms come free, it drops to the ground, and it has these longish arms, and it sort of sits there for a moment in a crouch, rubbing at its wrists, which are raw from being chained for who knows how long. And then suddenly, it looks up at the others. They all immediately begin begging, "Set us free too! Set us free too!" Vale, this one looks up at you, and then looks at Taliel, seeming to recognize that she's been translating. "What do you seek? Do you seek treasure? Or do you seek a way out?"
A way out.
Yeah. I mean, unless we want treasure as well, I don't know.
It moves to the curtain behind the altar. It pulls it aside, revealing a 10-foot wide, 45-foot long hallway. On
That is
either side of the hallway, you see decorative archways that have blank walls within them. 3 paths wind their way through this hallway. One of them is red and travels to the first of the archways. It is the shortest path. Another one is gold, and yet another one is purple. As it pulls aside and points down this hallway, this creature looks at you, Taliel, and it says, "If it is treasure you seek, follow the purple trail. If you seek an exit," it points down further down the tunnel and says, "Mind the bones." Do you let any of the others go free?
Yeah, I mean, made a promise. Said it would, so yeah, I'd let the rest of them go free.
As you let all 8 of these creatures loose, once freed, they just seem to sort of loiter around the room. They don't seem to have any real purpose. Occasionally they stop, crouch, and rub at the wounds on their wrists, and then they continue meandering around this room. The curtain has been pulled aside, and you have a hallway, 10 feet wide, 45 feet long. There is an archway immediately on your left, 15 feet down, with which the red path leads to. Further down, near the end on the left side, is another archway. The gold path leads to this. The furthest away is an archway with a purple path leading to it. And midway down on the right-hand side is an archway with no path leading to it. A charred skeleton lies on the ground, its arm outstretched, pointing at the archway. What would you like to do?
I think during this time, if that's all right, I think Brilinya would be talking with Dragonbait about kind of just like a very basic rundown of where they are, what's going on. She would introduce Taliel and Kawalu to him and just be kind of bringing him up to speed on what's happening, and then just ending. Please, you should follow us. We'll get out of this together.
Taliel, a peculiar thing happens. As Brilinya and Dragonbait are talking, mostly Brilinya listening, all of you can smell in this room. It's as if somebody went in the Yankee Candle and lit every candle. It's just all of these different smells are coming up. There's lemon, there's ham, there's violets, there's roses, there's brimstone, all these different scents. And Brilinya, you're basically just catching the full range of emotions as Dragonbait is reacting to the story. But Taliel, in a few moments, you begin to form an abstract understanding of what Dragonbait is saying with these pheromone scents. It's not direct words, but it's almost as if the scents are conjuring word images in your mind And you see in the breaths that Brilinya takes that Dragonbait is actually trying to communicate his own story. And you see Dragonbait being, you see that Dragonbait is, you see scenes of him on a airship with a human man and 3 hags crashing into the jungle. You see him separated, lost, and alone. You see him approached by 3 people in distress, but they reveal themselves to be the Sown sisters out in the jungles of Chult. They overpower and capture Dragonbait. And the last image he remembers is that of his own body in paralysis as he begins to lose consciousness. And the last thing he sees is the last few threads, the last few stitches of the body bag being sewn shut over his face. And then he seems to communicate this sense of pure thankfulness, genuine excitement at seeing Brilinya and Vale, a sense of friendship, and no question that he is going to continue on with them. He sees comfort and solace in all of you as allies.
Taliel would turn to Brilinya and mention that the Sown sisters did this to him. They sewed him up in this bag.
Yeah, you would see just this look of distress come over Brilinya as she looks back. They're not going to be able to hurt you anymore.
He looks questioningly down the hallway. A little bit of a scent of confusion as he looks amongst all of the gateways. You have 3 colored paths, 4 gateways. All of them have a stone wall between the archways. What would you like to do?
Taliel would actually turn to the first one that was doing the talking. What does the red path lead to?
We don't know. We don't know exactly where they go. But we see some travel through the bones. And then they never come back. We see some travel through the gold path. And sometimes they come back. None has ever returned from the red path.
And the purple?
Where is it? Hold on. The purple trail. Occasionally, they would go. They would seek. And this time he's gesturing at the other creatures around. This is why Yaserek punished us. We are never more what we once were. Never more. And all of these creatures around the room begin chanting, never more what we once were, never more what we once were. Forbidden knowledge.
Did you go to the purple path?
Never more what we once were. Never more.
What were you?
Great and powerful. Learned. Magic. Enchantments. Evocations. Necromancy. Illusions. All at our fingertips, but never more. Never more what we once were.
Yeah, and Taliel would turn to Brilinya and basically tell her that those who've entered the red path never came back. Those who entered, followed the bones never came back. Those that went to the gold would sometimes come back, and the purple, well, I think these ones went into it, and this is what came back.
Well, we were told by one of the sisters that the red path leads to death, and the charred bones are what we are to follow. But perhaps the purple path is what leads to the library
Yeah.
of lost lore?
Might be.
Maybe this is what has happened to them as a result of that which guards it.
I think so too.
I mean, do we want to go hunting for this library or just leave?
Well, I got what I came for, and we did end the soulmonger. I do not know if I seek more at this moment. But if we leave with the charred bones, we promised that man that we would come back for him and take him out. And the mirror with all those trapped. And
Well, would you like to go back up through the entirety of this place? And if I remember correctly, we did tell him that if we do not come back in a certain time for him to leave on his own.
But if there's only one way out...
Also true.
Do you think if we leave, we won't be able to come back?
Don't know. I assume this place was created just for him, or to keep that soulmonger growing and intact. Hideous thing.
well, knowing how long time passed for you while mere days passed for me, I don't know. I think if we leave, that man stays here. I don't know if we'd ever be able to get back to him if we leave without him.
Perhaps there is something in the library that could help us know more about this place.
Qualo, you have been quiet.
Qualo uses silence to think. Qualo was busy thinking about why these colors in particular. Qualo then wondered what were colors really. And then Qualo wondered why colors can be seen and not heard. Then Qualo wondered what color sounds would have if they could have colors. And that is why Qualo has been silent. Olu knows that perhaps things hidden in dark places should stay there. Qualu also wants to leave this place as soon as he can. The deed here has been done. There's other things that Qualu must look for and look after that are not in this deep, dark place. Qualu also thinks the Stone Sisters are liars. But if these creatures say the truth, then we have no reason not to listen to them.
Well, then. What do we wish to do?
Qualu has a goddaughter to save.
That I agree with as well. We have a crown to return to Drasnacene. No, not Drasnacene.
Finthraza.
Finthraza, thank you. Drasnacene died.
Drasnacene was killed by Finthraza's coup.
That's it.
Perhaps we should seek the way out then first. And once we are
Good
sure, then decide again from there.
Excellent idea.
I agree, Qualu, that I don't think that the Stone Sisters are the most honest, but I do think that perhaps in this case, they were not lying.
Do we have some kind of floating creature that can move ahead and then tell us what it sees and comes back? Does a such a thing exist? Vale, you had a creature, little animal who you spoke of kindly. There's someone else that's on the tip of my tongue who can levitate.
You're talking about Yak? As,
yes, Yak.
as Taliel will pull out a gem, and there, I'm sure, Yak would appear.
Yak has been very quiet because even as he does sort of tentatively approach, he's like an animal that has been traumatized by what he has seen all of you do recently. And he sort of timidly comes forward. And just sort of sniffs around, but he doesn't even, as eager as he's always been, he does not snatch the gemstone. He just sort of hovers and still is uncharacteristically quiet.
What is wrong, Yak? Are you not hungry?
You see the subtle shifting of the head to seem to indicate that he wants that gemstone, but he hovers backwards about a half a foot. He seems terrified of you. For those who might be wondering, Yak is a golden human skull that floats around and eats gemstones and is bound to Taliel and has been very quiet, not at all because the dungeon master and everybody else forgot about him for a while. And his name is Yak.
Yak, what is wrong?
I have seen all of you kill a god. You are slayers of gods and the demons. I am afraid.
Of us?
Why, you're not a god.
His head seems to sort of make a bowing motion. I am afraid of who you are and what you are capable of. I should never have pestered you in the way in which I did. I wish that the magic had never bound me to you and that I was so rude and disrespectful to you. The magic binds me, and I must eat my fill of gemstones, and then I go away. At least that's what... And the head seems to sort of turn and indicate towards the mist gate. At least that's what he cursed me with.
When you go away, where would you go?
I don't know what will happen to me if you leave this place.
Would you like to be a hero like us, Yak?
How do you mean?
Well, there are some innocent people still trapped in this tomb. Sure, we've not explored every nook and cranny. You are bound to this place. Perhaps you could fetch them, get them out to safety.
Who are these people? Where are they?
They're hidden throughout the dungeon. But it would only take a powerful hero to be able to traverse such a dangerous place and rescue these good people. I don't know whether we could find such a powerful floating skull of a hero to be able to do it.
Don't think I know what you're doing. Don't think I don't know what you're doing. Either way you look at it, either I know or I don't know what it is. But I can tell you this. I do not have feet like you to step on traps. I know where you hid the old man away in the secret place. I will do this. I will go and I will rescue these people. And he turns and he starts to float towards the mist gate. And then all of a sudden he darts back and snatches the gemstone out of your hand, Taliel. Crunching away, you just hear, Yak will be a hero. Yak will go down in the legends of Omu. Yak. The hero. And that's the last thing you hear as he passes through the mist gate.
Fair.
And I just want to say...
Brilinya would yell.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would just call out as he's disappearing. The bards of Port Nine Zaru will sing of your tales of bravery. Brave. Then he's gone.
Don't go down the red path.
I'm going to award you another domain die and say thank you to Lord Gosamba, who just rated us with quite a handful of viewers. For those who are new, we are in our this is our finale of our Tome of Annihilation campaign. So welcome everyone. Sit back, relax, and if you like D&D, hit that follow button because we do a lot of D&D here. All right, so you have just brilliantly tasked Yak with traversing the dungeon in search of those denizens you've left behind. And you now still have the issue of the path before you with the hallway before you with the various paths. Have you arrived at a decision?
I think Brilinya would want to go down the one with the charred bones.
That is the only one that does not have an actual path to follow. You can simply walk through and not follow a path. I'm trying to minimize how much I have my window open. Every time I open my windows or my browser, that's when we start buffering. So 5, 10, 15, 25 feet down on the right is the archway with the charred bones in front of them. Are you all going? Just Brilinya going? Brilinya leading the way?
Maybe. Well, unless Brilinya wants to lead the way. Otherwise, I think Taliel would lead the way.
All right. As you move the 25 feet down, the other colored pathways are very narrow. So if you wanted to avoid actually even stepping on them, you could do so. Sort of just stepping over them. And you arrive just a little over halfway down this hallway. And there is the archway. Hold on a second. It is a large archway looking like there should be a door there, but there is just stone. Taliel, what would you like to do?
Taliel is going to reach out with her offhand and touch it.
All right. You touch the door. And, or rather touch the wall, and nothing happens.
So it's real? There's a
Yeah,
real wall
yeah,
there?
sorry. Yes, there is actually a wall there. It's solid. Why don't you go ahead and give me an investigation check? And I believe you get to do so at advantage.
Oh, those are terrible rolls. I think I'm going to... Yeah, I'm going to use a domain die to re-roll one.
Okay, I'm going to use one of those domain dice.
Okay, that will give us an 18.
All right. You begin kind of working your way around the edges of this, and no matter where you press, you are not finding any kind of way to open a door if there is one here.
And I think she would probably do that for a few moments, and then she would turn back to Vale and Brilinya and Qualu. Maybe we did something wrong? I don't know. There's no door here. I can't find one.
Well, it must be hidden.
Anyone else is welcome to look if they'd like. You will each, if you are doing it, either make a check at a single roll, or if you are helping, two people can work together and gain advantage. So however you guys want to do that.
I will give someone advantage because my checks are poopy.
Okay, yeah, Brilinya will look.
All right.
So with that advantage, I got an 18.
Which is what Taliel had. You're not finding anything here. Vale, are you looking as well?
You know what? Why not? Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Investigation, you said, right?
Yes.
All right.
And I'll help you this time.
I like the sound of that.
Like, no, I already tried that. No, that didn't work either.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
There you go. And I got a 20. Dirty 20. Not natural.
So as you all are kind of reaching around, searching this archway, and you're just giving it everything you've got, And right in a spot where Taliel tells you, no, 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 I already did that. You press in Vale, and there's a click. And two things happen simultaneously. First, I need all of you to make a dexterity saving throw as a glyph of warding explodes. And I'm going to get some dice ready. I didn't get enough out. Need one more.
I am going to use a domain die.
All right. One domain die down. Now, let's see. You guys are at... Let me fix this real quick. We'll take the... add the 10. And then turn these all back on. So you're at 15 domain dice. Okay, so what everybody get for your saves? I see them in the chat. So Vale. Oh wait, doesn't everybody get a bonus to saving throws? A +4 bonus to saving throws.
Yep, +4.
Because that's going to make a difference here. So that then makes it a 24, a 27,
yeah,
a 23 for Qualu, and a 25 for Brilinya. Qualu, you fail. Everybody else, you succeed as you just get out of the way of this blast of cold energy. You all take 14 points of cold damage. Qualu, you take 27 points of cold damage. Simultaneously, you see a bright light at the end of the hall that you came from as the curtain that was blocking the way into this hallway instantly immolates into fire. And it rapidly turns into a wall of fire and begins moving through the tunnel towards you. What would you all like to do?
I have resistance to damage from traps. Would this be
so that would
considered a
knock
trap?
you down to a
7?
7.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
And so the door didn't open. We just had
It
that
did.
happen? Oh,
It did, but in doing so, you triggered the warding glyph, which also set off the other warding glyph.
Without hesitation, Taliel's going to, for lack of anything else to do, jump through the doorway.
You shoulder into this doorway as the fire begins advancing. Taliel has now pushed open what was once a secret doorway, and you can see a hallway on the other side. Are you all following in? Who's the last one in?
I'll be the last one in.
Vale,
I'll probably be...
As you stand there ushering everybody in, I imagine almost with your new spectral arm, sort of ushering them in, the fire's getting close enough that you can feel its heat, and you move through out of the hallway. Just as it comes within a few feet of you, the second you cross the threshold into this, through this archway, the fire dissipates and vanishes. And
okay,
you now find yourself, you see you've sort of all kind of crammed into this 5-foot wide, 10-foot long hallway. There is a room 15 feet by 15 feet. Where did it go? And there is a pool of jet black ooze glistening in the center of this silent chamber. The walls are decorated with relief carvings depicting black stars.
Is that the Ebon pool? Kind of makes sense.
I mean, it'd have to be. Metagame wise, I mean, it just looks like the Ebon pool. You know, if ever a pool, would it be Ebon? You know?
most definitely fits that description.
Yes, you do. Hey, Connor, why don't you go ahead and stick your hand in there just to make sure it's safe?
Perhaps you should be one sticking your hand in.
No. Hey,
After all,
I just got a new one.
Think
I'm
of it
not-
this way: if you put your other arm in, you get two hands like that. Huh?
You know, you're the most expendable one of all of us. Come on, you got the most hit points, toughest. You know,
What is this hit point you speak of?
out of
How do I-
character, damn it.
Let's not forget, because I did momentarily forget this. Dragonbait is with you and also made it into the chamber with you.
Well, that's good.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
I would hate his last scent to smell like cooked lizard.
Right.
So
you stand before the ebon pool. What would you like to do?
Turn to Brilinya. We need those ebon marbles. And I'm not sure which one of us had them, but if I had them, Taliel would start to rummage through the pouch to try and find one of them.
Yeah, I know you have them. I don't remember exactly who has them. So you find them. You have a handful of these black marbles. What are you going to do with it?
She would look to Brilinya. What do we do with it? Do we just throw it in? Do we?
I don't know. I think could Brilinya like look at the marble, see if it has any like arcane
instruction manual.
instruction, Yeah, like a little IKEA, with the people that show you how to build things.
Has a tiny magical Allen key carved into the side of it.
Yeah. Go ahead and take a look at it. We'll tell you what you need to do in just a moment. Flipping through all of the previous stuff. Where did it go? Bear with me one moment. Here we go. Okay. So, as you are looking at these marbles, they're very shiny black marbles, and as you're holding it up and looking at it, it seems to reflect the star carvings on the walls around you. And then you realize that it's as if you're gazing into the night sky as you gaze into this marble. And it seems to, the motion, it has an almost liquid appearance to it. And it seems to have just a slight bit of motion, liquid motion, that exactly mirrors the motion of the surface of the ebon pool.
Yeah, I think Brilinya would kind of show this to the others, even if she's not quite sure what that means. Perhaps if we just stand in the pool.
So, how many marbles would you say that we have?
You had picked up a couple from a couple different locations. Most of them came from, I think it was Peggy Deadbell's. One of the Sohn sisters had a handful of them in her pocket. So you got like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, I have written on my sheet we have 5.
Then you have 5 of them.
So maybe we each take
Brilinya,
one?
you hear a small voice at your ear as you feel the rustling of straw bundle on your shoulder. The Sown sisters would use these by throwing them into the pool. That is how they leave the tomb. Straw bundle sort of shimmies down your sleeve and crawls down your body to the floor. Clay No Face and Joho the monkey, what a phrase I'm just uttering, all climb down to the ground from their perches on all of you. This is the Ebon Pool. It is the way you leave the tomb. We cannot go any further with you. If we leave, we will die. We will go back. We will find the looky-like and make sure he is okay. We will find anybody else. Maybe we can find the golden skull that you'd claimed a hero. But you must go. Take that marble and toss it into the pool, and you will see the way out.
Brilinya would turn to whoever has the marbles. Can we give them one so that those who are trapped in here may get out?
Absolutely. And she would, I guess, give it to Straw Bundle. It's got hands, right? Straw Bundle?
Yes.
Yeah.
They all have hands.
Oh, okay.
Straw bundle reaches up, and it looks like the size of like a yoga ball comparatively to the size of Straw Bundle's tiny hands. But they take it. We will not forget you.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
Hopefully, you've nothing left to be scared of here.
We will see. All right. I believe you have the marbles, Taliel.
Yeah, I would have given one to Brilinya though, because she was inspecting it. So.
Oh yeah, so Brilinya, you have one as well.
Yeah, so I think I put the others back in the pouch and put it away, and
So
leaving
Brilinya,
just the one out.
You have the marble.
Brilinya is going to throw the marble in the pool.
The marble hits and seems to sort of, as if landing on almost like mud, bloom, hits the surface. And then slowly it sinks into the ooze. Where the marble recedes into the ooze, it begins to ripple inward from the edges towards the marble. Bloom, bloom, bloom. And you see the ooze begin to rise. But it's not rising as it sort of falls away. A 4-foot tall black obelisk. A miniature version of the obelisk that contained the first riddle outside of the tomb of the 9 gods rises up out of the ebon pool. It fills most of the space within it, and you could easily reach out and touch it. and you could easily reach out and touch it.
So scary.
Do it. Do it. What's the worst that could happen?
Brilinya would touch it and then immediately turn into a scary monster. But she would reach out.
Brilinya,
and
you
place her
reach
hand on it.
out. You touch the surface of the obelisk. And as Brilinya does so, the entire room fills with a brilliant light. You all feel a tugging just behind your navel as you are sort of whisked away through some sort of teleportation. And that's where we're going to take a quick break. As I'm realizing we're about 30 minutes over where we normally take a break, and I need to use the bathroom real quick. And we are going to move into, we're going to come back in about 10 minutes, and we are going to move into the final portion of our finale, the very last chapter of Chult of Personality. So thank you to everybody who has joined us via the raid and otherwise. We hope that you will stick around for the next 10 minutes as we bring this adventure to a close. We'll see you in just a few minutes. And we're back for the last time as we wrap this up. Brilinya reached out and touched the obelisk that rose from the center of the ebon pool. There was a brilliant flash of light, and you've all felt yourself yanked from within the tomb. A moment later, you all feel the heat of the sun on your heads, your shoulders, your arms, and you feel cold stone beneath your hands. And you begin to hear the sounds of birds. You hear the wind rustling through nearby trees. You feel soft earth beneath your feet. As you all realize you are standing outside of the tomb. Brilinya, your hand is on the obelisk at the front entrance to the tomb. Nearby, as you remember, you had to make your way through quite a bit of the lost city of Omu to the far northwestern area to get to the where the tomb entrance was. You hear, there it is. I was trying to find the map. I haven't looked at this map in forever. Let me open a new tab. So you are at the far back portion of where did it go? The far back portion of the city of Omu, where you found the entrance to the tomb. Not far away from you are some buildings. You remember traveling through the broken, raised streets, some of them flooded, traveling through the ruined buildings. You briefly remember your short-term companion, the Tabaxi Copper Bell, who sought an honorable death as she had reached old age. But when you turn and look at the nearby city, you do not see the overgrown ruins. You see freshly washed buildings painted in brilliant pastel colors. You see streets teeming with people. Lush trees and foliage, but trimmed back, accenting the buildings. You hear the buzzing din of a lively city. And then you hear some voices nearby, very close by. Is it them? Is it? Did it happen? Is it? It's a do the thing, do the thing. And then you hear, wow, that was weak. You hear horns being blown into, resounding through the city. What would you like to do as this is happening immediately around you? What is your reaction?
I think Taliel would grab Brilinya's arm and just say, "When are we?"
Yeah, I think Brilinya, you grab her arm and she is just as tense as you are, probably just like rigid. Um, you can see there's almost like this like fight or flight look in her eyes too, as she just kind of shakes her head. I don't know.
Probably be blinking and kind of shielding my eyes a lot. As the first time I like had the sun on my face in days, weeks. I don't even know. But I would be kind of so many things happening at once. I would be confused, and I'd be a bit nervous, but at the same time, kind of feel safe. With the jungle nearby, I can feel Utao's presence closer now than it was in that place. And I feel a peace, just kind of a sense of accomplishment washing over me. So I'd probably smile.
Qualu?
Alu is confused, concerned, but soon will take in the sight. And I think that almost like for the first time, a smile will creep across his face. That's the one thing that he's been bereft of in this entire journey, was a proper smile.
And you, as you're all looking around, you notice that not only are the streets teeming, and you begin to notice that there are people leading pack dinosaurs, triceratops loaded with trade goods, people riding on smaller two-legged and four-legged dinosaurs, traveling back and forth. You see a couple of larger dinosaurs rise up in the distance, being led through the streets. You see flying in the air above numerous Aarakocra flying to and fro. A moment later, a host of 4 Aarakocra come flying in and alight in front of you. They wear the garb and the insignia of the monastery at Istafall. Hold on a second. There we go. Something was going wrong with OBS. They wear the garb and insignia of Istafall. As they land, one of them moves toward all of you, looks over at Qualu and Taliel, and then looks at you, Brilinya and Vale.
You, we recognize you. Your description has been passed down to our family. We have heard of you. The heroes of legend, the ones Ashara gave flight to. The heroes of Kier Sabal, and the saviors of Omu and the realm. You are Vale and Brilinya, yes?
I think Brilinya would just nod, what do you mean, passed down?
I have been told your story by my father, who learned it from his father, who was at the ceremony where Ashara gave you flight. My father's father was Eric. He returned. He was not himself. But eventually, he became himself and told us what had happened. But you must come to the palace. The Queen has had standing orders to bring you to the palace if you should ever return. We have been watching this place for nearly 3 decades. Come!
And they begin to move forward, and they indicate a section of the street where some soldiers dressed in what looks to be some sort of royal armor, having some relation to Omu, and they have a large palanquin between them. Come,
enter here, and we will transport you to the palace, to the Queen.
And quickly several Omuans, men and women and others in various colors of brightly colored linens, are coming up to all of you and to Dragonbait, and they are tending to you, and they're motioning to you, come, it will be well, you will be cared for, come. And they seem to just sort of, like a flow of people, they just sort of move you in their current towards the palanquins and load you in. You can see outside their open palanquins, and you are being transported through the city of Omu, that you barely recognize this place. What was once ruinous and overgrown is now, as I said, has been painted over in many places. Here and there you see the cracks. You see older buildings that were never repaired. You're taken down one of the long north-south avenues, one that you remember being broken apart and flooded, now repaired, to a cross avenue where you remember sneaking along, trying to avoid the patrolling Yuan-Ti, to the entrance to the circular walled palace city of Omu. And you're taken through the gate that you once bypassed so that you could climb over its walls and find a secret entrance into the fane of the Night Serpent, where you encountered Fenthraza and Rosnasi. You are led up the streets that are practically blazing with white. They're so brilliantly clear stone. People have lined the streets word has spread as you are all being transported to the palace. As you are brought in front of the palace and the palanquins come to a stop, there is a massive crowd at the steps to the palace. You are ushered by the people out into the crowd. They give you a wide berth. You see at the top of the stairs what looks to be very clearly the Queen of Omu. She is a tall, dark-skinned woman who looks to be in her late 30s to early 40s. A slightly younger looking, very handsome man stands near by her. They have a similar look about their faces. And Vale and Brilinya, there's something familiar about them. You've met them before. You see that you are looking at what was once the 16-year-old Princess Moxanare and her younger brother Na. She stands fully decked out in brilliant robes, wearing a crown upon her head, and numerous attendants around them. As the crowd spreads, an individual comes up to you and he's a very elderly man, Omuan, sun-wrinkled, dark skin, but he wears brilliant orange robes. And he comes to all of you and he says, I knew that one day you would return. One day I would see you again. If not for you, I would not have my family. And he points to a woman who is easily half his age, and several children that are around them. And again, there's a familiarity to this man. And he looks at you and says, I am Eitan. You rescued me from Demir. It is the old man that you secreted away in the safe room in the dungeon, who was once an old Omuan from the old Omu before the fall. Do you say anything to him?
You made
So
it
I
out.
You both started talking at the same time, and then you both stopped.
So I see that Yak was a hero after all.
Oh, Yak. Yak was very important to getting me and so many others out of the tomb. If not for him, we would not be here.
But how are you out before us?
I don't know. We kept moving through and finding everybody we could. We went back to the mirror, and we were able to get everybody out. We had to run away from a troll that was in there. It was very angry, but we lost it. Some of the gargoyle statues in the tomb crushed it. We ran from them too. But wherever it was that we went, Yak seemed to be able to send out the gemstones. And eventually he found a way out. But that was nearly 30 years ago. And you don't look any different than when I saw you.
Well, yes, it took us a little bit longer to get out of the tomb.
And you hear, so from the other side, you hear a voice that says, Etan, Etan! How many times do I have to tell you? The tomb was full of all kinds of magics. Of course they are going to look the same. They are the heroes that destroy the gods. And you turn around, and there is a very, very short Omuan man, about 4.5 feet tall, wearing brilliant red and gold robes. And you can barely see the skin on his arms or around his neck or his ears or his head for all of the jewel-encrusted jewelry that he wears. In human form, he comes forward to you and he says, he stops before you, Taliel, and he says, I knew that one day we would see you again, and you could look upon your friend Yak in all of his glory. And he bows deeply before you. When you are done here, you will have to come and visit me at my palace. You will eat on my fine jeweled plates and drink from my jeweled goblets. There are jewels everywhere. And I don't have to eat them.
Yak, it is good to see you as you should be. This warms my heart. And I think as he's bowing, she would stop him, kind of like deep bow, and don't bow to me. And instead she would give him a big hug, I think.
He gets a little, he kind of accepts the hug, and you feel him give the hug back a little bit, and then he goes, no, you are embarrassing me in front of everybody. And he goes, I have something for you. The queen, she awaits, and he kind of points up to the top of the stairs. But you have a royal escort. And he puts his fingers in his mouth, and he gives a whistle. I'm not going to do it. I can't whistle. And it would be very loud anyway. But from out of the edges of the crowd emerge a dozen individuals of various sizes. Most of them seem to be human, but there are a few others mixed in there. And they are all wearing yellow banners, yellow sashes. I have commissioned the Royal Guard, and they are called the Company of the Yellow Banner, in your honor. And they flank you, and Yak says, when you are ready, and he motions forward towards the steps. Towards the steps. Will you rise the steps towards the queen?
Yes.
As you begin moving, the Company of the Yellow Banner snaps to attention and begins moving forward. They all brandish tall spears with an actual yellow banner trailing from it. They have shields, and they march in lockstep alongside, escorting you. And you begin to see that all around the palace there are others similarly garbed in yellow banners. You climb the steps, and the guards stop about 15 feet in front of the queen. And a hush falls over all of the crowd. She looks at all of you. She steps forward. And then she looks over at you, Vale. And she kind of gives you that same sly smile she once gave you at Keir when she was but a teenager. I always hoped that I would see you once again, Vale Istafall. And now it appears as though You may be the younger man. And then she kind of leans in a little bit and she says, I am still single.
Probably will definitely blush. And you'll have to forgive me, Your Majesty. I am adjusting to a new time, new world.
Yes. We must talk. And she turns and begins to walk towards the palace. And we're going to do sort of a classic Star Wars wipe. And you are all in a grand open air sort of dining hall, grand hall, high up on the palace. There's pillars. There's no walls. There's silks draped to sort of combat the little bit of wind that comes through, but it makes it very cool up here. Everything is decked out in marble. There's a veritable feast laid out before all of you. And everybody sits around. Queen Moxanare, her brother, the prince, Na, many other attendants and others, as you're sort of in the midst of having this meal, and she begins to explain that about 30 years ago, something happened. A sort of energy burst throughout the land, with Omu at its epicenter. And the people who were sick and dying began to get better. The clerics began to report that their healing magics and their resurrection magics were once again working. And that is when we knew that you had been successful. And so we waited for you to return. But you did not come back. About 6 months after this happened, these strange little men, Yak, and several others emerged from the direction of where we now knew the tomb to be. I came in. I had taken over official leadership, taking my rightful place as Queen Vomu. And I placed guards near the entrance with orders that we would always watch for you. While we were still at Kirsabol, Ashara's son, Eric, returned, but his mind was not his own. He seemed to know who people were, but he could not speak, and he spent all of his days in his room. But then the burst of energy happened, and he was once again himself. When the Shara passed, Eric took up the mantle at Kirsabol. He took a wife, and they had many children, who had children of their own. The Aarakocra, they're a strong and powerful people, but they are very short-lived. It was Eric's grandchildren who escorted you from the exit of the tomb. Over the years, we have continued our vigil, holding out hope that you would one day return. Many doubted, and she sort of looks over at Na, who kind of looks away sheepishly. And we continue to build the city. We continue to establish ourselves and our people. Vale, it may interest you to know that several new temples have been raised in the city dedicated to the god Ubtao. And it is apparently with his divine blessing that they are able to perform their rituals and their ceremonies. It would appear Ubtao has returned to the land once again. You should visit these temples.
Oh, I most certainly shall, Your Majesty.
Brilinya. About 15 years ago, there came a delegation from a distant monastery called the Order of the Weeping Friars. They came inquiring about you, but when we told them that you were on royal business, they were sent on their way. We have not heard or seen from them since. Taliel, I believe. Yak has told your story, and he has told your story many times over the years. Every time it grows more and more fanciful. But he has had the honor already of presenting you with our own personal royal guard that were sanctioned in your name, and thankfully not in your memory. If you choose it, the Company of the Yellow Banner is yours to command. We have always held the top leadership position of the Captain of the Guard in an open position, waiting your return. You are, of course, under no obligation to do so. But if you wish, it is yours.
I would be honored, Your Majesty.
Qualu. I am afraid the news that I have for you is not so very good. I am afraid it may affect all of you. As we came into Omu and began to reclaim our city, we had to chase off the Yonti that had infested below the palace. They had an entire temple and dark rituals that were performed down there. They vanished, and for the longest time we did not know where to. Their leader was somebody who, by the name of Fentaza. She claimed ownership over you, that you had something that belonged to her. We told her to leave, not to come back. Always she sent her messengers, until one day she didn't. For nearly 5 years, no messengers came, and we thought the threat was gone. And then new messengers came. They were still claiming from all of you that you owed them the Black Opal Crown, and that when you return, you must seek them out. You must bring the crown to their leader, the Nightmare Speaker at Desnia.
We'll chase him to the end of the earth if I have to. Where's that crown? Qualu would like to look at his companions.
I have it. I remember I pulled it before I lost... So I'll reach in my bag, pull out the black opal crown, hand it to Qualu.
He holds it in a tight fist. And that is where I must go.
And you're very quick to act.
Those who hesitate are lost.
Do you understand the full weight of what I have told you?
Yes,
You know who their nightmare speaker is then now.
of course.
And I understand that she is the daughter of Dunala, or she once was. You must know that she is not that anymore. There is no telling what she is. Take your rest. Recuperate here. We will do what we can to outfit and arm you. And when you are ready, you may go.
So I'm ready to go now, Qualu says, almost like just
So
being really rude.
at this point, I would like to give each of you an opportunity to narrate what your plans are. Now that the Soulmonger is destroyed, the threat of a Serac seems to have been gone. Many of the companions you've met along the way have appeared. At some point, Dragonbait is even reunited with an elderly artist Simber, who has been on many adventures. He bears new scars. He walks with a limp. But he is super incredibly overjoyed to see his once longtime companion, Dragonbait. Each of you tell me, and you are free to interact with any of the NPCs, create new... This is your moment to give your character's epilogue, your final, what are you doing now that you're done? And we'll just go around the horn. We'll start with you, Vale.
Well, I think originally Vale would have wanted to go back to the Sword Coast, and find a place kind of, out of the way to kind of relax. But now that this is all over, I think Vale would probably have settled in Port Nine Zaro, or just a little ways out of it. Probably near like a stream, maybe just outside the city. Would have obviously, bought a plot of land where he could have bees and make honey and grow wildflowers and have hives and use that honey to sell honey and make mead and hire a large group of the populace to, help him run a meadery, kind of as an alternative to Tej, which Tej is nice. But, hey, why don't we try this other thing? And just living a simple life. And on the property as well is a kind of a shrine, a fairly large shrine to Ubtao, where any of the workers can come in. And as far as profits, any profits from it, a lot of it goes back into the, I just make enough to kind of keep the place running, get a couple of nice little trinkets for myself, but most of the money, goes back into the temples of Ubtao so they can get redistributed amongst the poorer population. And, I just living, as much of a simple life as I can.
And what is the name of your meadery? or mead? What is the product, the brand name of your product?
I don't know.
All right.
I
you can give that to me at another time, because as many
Sure.
people know, all of my games have a little bit of a shared world. And I definitely want whatever this is to start to crop up in some of the games. Also, when this game is done, of course, all of you will level up to level 15. I forgot that important part. There is one other thing before we move on to Taliel. The trickster gods that inhabited you have left you. You no longer have the benefits of the trickster god. But each of them, and this is important. Before Kubazan left you, Taliel, you were briefly reunited. Each of you will lose the benefit that that trickster god gave you, but you will retain the magic item that that trickster god gave you. However, if you have any of the other trickster god magic items to a god that was not inhabiting you, that you, when you go to look in your packs or wherever you had them, they have turned into a fine gold powder. So that's something you'll want to annotate on your character sheets. Because as we've said, at some point in time, we will probably be revisiting these characters 6 months, a year from now. So, Taliel, what do you do after this day?
So I think before she takes up the mantle of the captain of the guard, she would go with Koalu. Make sure that whatever his quest is done, because she feels a part of that, even though she wasn't there for whatever it was that how it started, but he was there for the rest, and for better or for worse, he's part of her company. So if he's still in trouble, so she would have gone with him to take care of that. And then she would have come back and taken up the reins as the captain of the guard and done her best to train and lead these guards. And part of that would have been to maybe like in the guardhouse or somewhere, there would be a painting that would have been commissioned for the mantle that would have the other members of the Yellow Banner that did not make it. And I forget, before she would have left with Koalu, she would have used the Eye of Zeltek to restore the Starfallen, as was the end of her quest. So before she headed out with Koalu, that would have been taken place as she had promised to do. Yeah.
I imagine, maybe, if you'll allow me, the night before you leave with Koalu, you find a spot atop the palace walls, and you go up there alone, and you pull out the lantern, and you pull out the Eye of Zeltek, and you release the Starfallen, and you watch as this ghostly visage of an elven woman whose spirit has been trapped in this lantern for ages stands before you. She looks at you, bows her head slightly, turns, and in a brilliant flash streaks into the night sky like a falling star but rising into the night until you see a final bing of light, and there appears to be a new star in the night sky. Qualu.
Qualu is filled with hatred, newfound hatred. Not even newfound hatred, just more like reinvigorated hatred for the Yuan-Ti. Knowing what has been done in this place, knowing what's been done to Dunala's daughter. This is not right. And all this they will be answered for. Whether or not it's justified to another person, Qualu's quest takes him deep into the jungles of Chult, finding these Yuan-Ti again. And Taliel said that she's going to join me, and so I think that Qualu will regale to her stories of Dunala, stories of the time together, and how much this means to him, and how much the trickery of these snake monsters has just wounded him. And I think that's kind of like where his crusade begins and ends somewhere, as no bards follow him to really record his tale. And the result of his quest is a mystery, as many things lie hidden within the jungles of Chult. Perhaps he'll resurface at another time. Perhaps he's lost to the woods, to the jungle, to the snakes. There he goes.
Brilinya.
Knowing how much time has passed and so many things that Brilinya has learned along this, what was once just an accident of her just running away, not wanting to face anything to do with the Weeping Friars, but then having it turn and confront her at every step, every turn. She's going to try and return to the monastery from which she came, with the intention of getting out those who were like her, who were kept in seclusion, who were, because there were more of her. She was just lucky that she got away. And so she would try to take those who were trapped in the inner sanctum of this monastery, and those who wanted to come with her, she would give them the option of joining her and creating a new order, a new place, a new purpose. They did not have to. They could choose to leave, to live their life however they wanted, and those who did join her, she created the Mithril Vanguard, reclaiming the procedure that was done to her to represent something so horrific, and taking it back and making it something strong. And with those who would follow her, she would either want to return to the tomb if it was still there, and she would want to destroy, after doing some work to find out how to destroy phylacteries, she would want to go back and begin getting rid of the phylacteries of these liches that were perhaps in league with a Sararak. Perhaps not, but she would want to kind of work. That would become her life's work of also doing other things, good things, healing people, setting up all this, but her personal goals when she wasn't setting up these places to help people. She would be hunting down the owners of these phylacteries.
And as we see bits and pieces of these heroes of Chult taking off on their various journeys, we see Taliel and Qualu heading off into the jungle together. We see the fallen bodies of Yuan-Ti everywhere as they're on the trail trying to find the Nightmare Speaker. I imagine we see a growing rift between Taliel and Qualu as Qualu becomes more and more violent and seems to be heading down a darker path until we see the place where they entered the jungle. It is only Taliel that returns when she takes up the captain of the guard, the captain of the Company of the Yellow Banner. We see Brilinya freeing the Weeping Friars, acolytes held against their will, creating the Mithril Vanguard, and leading a team into the tomb, knowing many of its secrets now. I imagine seeing that first doorway opening up, and we see as it opens, mithril arms held aloft. First we see Brilinya raise her arm, and then a brilliant radiant light illuminate from the mithril in her arms, and then we see as other mithril arms illuminate as the Mithril Vanguard moves towards the camera, and then we transition to Vale walking amongst the wildflowers, bees buzzing all around. He reaches out with a translucent spectral hand brushing against some of the wildflowers. A bee sort of alights on this ghostly hand. And as Vale begins walking down the lane between rows of wildflowers, and the camera stays and begins to rise, we see the faint silhouette of a godlike entity walking alongside Vale through the wildflowers until we move high into the sky, and then we see the setting sun, and there we fade to black. And that's a wrap on Chult Personality, our Tomb of Annihilation campaign, 2 years and 8 months. Wow. That's a first for me, and I believe for all of us. We've talked about it, that this is the longest campaign we have all been a part of. Any final words, final thoughts as players? If you want to go back around in the same order, Mike?
I mean, I think this is probably the first campaign I've ever actually finished. Most of them get lost to the grinding of finding time or interest or a lot of other things. But you know what, this group was wonderful, phenomenal. We were able to keep cohesion. We were able to play really well off each other, and I had such a great time. And obviously, we couldn't have had a great time without our amazing storyteller. So I mean, Jake, thank you for sharing with us this narrative that you kind of made along with us. Without you, wouldn't be the same. So I had a great time. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
But and thank you everyone who's watching. Without you guys, we would still be playing, but it wouldn't be as fun. Especially without that side chat.
like I said, for all those people, I mean, it's amazing to see how many Terrain Domain has grown. But this was the stream that started it all. This was the first game that I made the transition into Twitch with, and it was Mike and and our friend Marquise, who played for more than 2 years, or played just about 2 years, I should say, with us. The reason he left the campaign was related to taking on a highly successful Kickstarter for the Scavenger role-playing book, and we've had others that have played and have left for other reasons, but that's what ultimately allowed for Connor and Kaeryn to join us. And though they haven't been with us from the beginning, that doesn't lessen their involvement at all in being a part of this grand story that we all told together. Final thoughts, Kaeryn?
I feel very honored to have been able to join in, even though it was like late in the game, because this was pretty amazing. This was a great group to play with, and like Mike said, without you, it wouldn't have been the same at all. So thank you so much for this and putting it all together. And yeah, this was just one for the record books. So thank you so much for having us along.
I don't know why, because it was something I came up with. I improvised at the last minute based on your late game decision. But having you meet the human form of Yak kind of choked me up a little bit.
Oh, you brought me to tears, so yay.
It got me a little bit. And it was something when you guys sent Yak off, I'm like, oh, I wrote it down in big letters. I'm like, because I had a list here of some of the individuals you'd run into, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And then when I was reading it, or when I was narrating it, you could tell I got a little choked up at that point. I don't know why. It's such a goofy character, but it was such a touch point.
It was. Yeah. Thank you.
Connor, final thoughts.
It was a blast to get feeble-minded. It was a blast to get put in a meat grinder. It was a blast to turn into a goat. It was a blast to become so hungry that you can't stand. It was a blast killing 2 shambling mounds by myself while everyone else is figuring out buttons on a controller. It was so many fun moments in this game. Big highs, big lows, big scary things, and cool treasures. It was a lot of fun. It's just literally the first campaign of this caliber and size that I finished. So congratulations.
And finally, M.
So I believe that this is not only my longest running campaign, but I think one of the first campaigns that I was in. There was only a few others that I had really been in that kind of dropped off, but so this was in and amongst one of the first campaigns I'd ever been in. And wow, it's crazy to think that it's at the end, and yeah, but it was so much fun, and it's so amazing to see and to be able to enact almost like real-time character growth and change, and seeing change in other characters, and seeing how that plays off of everything, and then thinking about who the characters were at the beginning and what they've changed into at the end is so awesome to see. And I think that speaks for the caliber of the players, fantastic players, and a fantastic DM who embraced all the tomfoolery and the and the moments and the constant questions and created a living, breathing, amazing world for us to interact with, and wonderful story. So thank you for letting me be a part of it and to experience it. It's truly amazing.
This was such an incredible thing to take what was my first campaign and hope that we could see it through to the end, and worry if that, you know, was going to be something that would happen, as, you know, we had where players would drop off. And, you know, so there were times where I worried about it, and we had times over these 3 years where we didn't play for a few weeks because, you know, real life. But when we could, we were always excited to get back together. And something that I think's, I just want to emphasize, because it means a lot to me, is this in no way negates people that have strictly online friendships. All of us, all 5 of us met online. We all met through the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. And because of that, we ultimately have all met in person within, and actually I think, so I met Em and Connor. Were you at AtCon 1, Kaeryn? I don't know. I didn't think so. I was like, tell me I didn't block you out of that. But between 2017 and 2019, I got to meet all 4 of these individuals in person, to play games with them in person, and most importantly, to get to hug them all, and just share in at the table and away from the table shenanigans. And these are among some of my best friends in the world. They're like family. I love them all dearly. And the greatest thing is, we're all going to be playing games together on Tuesday night, tomorrow on Monday night. You'll be able to see Mike and Em and I, along with Cassie and Dwight, as we kick off Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, our All That Glitters campaign, continuing where we left off with the same characters after Waterdeep Dragon Heist. On Tuesday, over on Dice on Ice, you'll be able to see Em DMing Kaeryn and Connor and I in our long-running Curse of Strahd campaign that we play in. And Em will be back here again on Thursday for the Dawnbringers campaign, our other long-running campaign that Em has been a part of from the very beginning, with another wonderful group of players. Lots of great games will continue. We're getting close to wrapping up here, but first, Em has an announcement, because I know already there's been questions in chat. Now that Chult is officially done, what's going to happen to this time slot? Em has an answer.
I am stealing it. I am taking it over, and I will be running a shorter campaign in a brand new setting and mechanics world, kind of supernatural style Monster Hunter type game. That is going to be in its first playtest here on Mini Terrain Domain, and that will be coming, I believe the session 0 will be aired on July 5th, and then it will be every other week after that. And we have Kaeryn and Tamiko and Chris and Mary who will be joining us and playing. So I am very excited. I can't wait for that. That will be
absolutely incredible. I'm looking forward to that. It's definitely one that I'll most likely I'll catch it in the VODs, because one of the joys of having somebody else produce on a certain night is that I get to take the night off. I'm taking the summer off after running a 3-year campaign, and the next game shortly after, sometime after Em finishes up with this game that they're running, sometime in the fall, I will be running a new game in this time slot. I don't even have all my players, but I know that I am running the Tyranny of Dragons campaign, starting with the Horde of the Dragon Queen and moving into the Rise of Tiamat. I've long wanted to run it. and I picked up late last year, or early this year. What is time anymore? But I picked up the new combined version where they fixed a bunch of stuff. It's been my white whale that I want to run. So that'll be coming up here. And of course, I threw the schedule in the chat. We have on Mondays opposite the All That Glitters game will be Beards and Brushes, mine and Dwight's stream, in which it's a 2-hour stream where we paint miniatures, amateur miniature painting. And then let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. There's a couple other random games. Oh, we do have coming up soon. You'll have to watch the social medias. Dwight is actually going to be the keeper, and will be, I believe he's going to produce that one as well. I think we talked about him producing it, but it will be here, and I will be a player, and so will Em and Kaeryn in a Call of Cthulhu. It's what's becoming a series that we're calling, I think, the Mythos Investigators or something like that. But this one is the Illicit Tower Horror, an original scenario that Dwight has written for us, and it's the same crew that ran the Highway of Blood. So Alex, who was our keeper in that, will be a player, along with our friend Carrie and Em and Kaeryn. So lots of great stuff to look forward to. There is something that I need from the 4 of you. There are 15 unclaimed domain devils, domain dice, that we can't let go to waste. So you all, since there's 15 of them, I'm going to just throw a bonus one in there. Say we'll call it 16. Each of you has 4 domain dice to give to whichever other D&D mini terrain domain game that you want. And I'll even say, because I know he does it a little differently, but I'll put Alan's Curse of Strahd game on the table, and I'll just let him know that you guys contributed 4 rerolls or inspirations. I think they're doing them, if that's what you choose to do. So we've got All That Glitters, we've got Dawnbringers, Legacies and Legends is on hiatus for the summer, but there's All That Glitters and Dawnbringers and the Curse of Strahd game. Mike, who do you want to give your 4 to?
Nobody. I'm going to hoard them myself, and during All That Glitters, I'm going to use them to decimate you all. No, you know what? I'm going to give them to Alan's Curse of Strahd. All 4 of them, they can have them for their inspiration. I've never played Curse of Strahd, but I hear it's pretty rough. So maybe they'll need all the help they can get.
All right. I think Tamiko's in this chat, or she was. So yeah, we'll let Alan know about that. Kaeryn.
Would it be possible to give it to Legends and Legacies even though it's on hiatus?
Yeah, since you're a player in that, you can go ahead and... Yep, I'll make a note of that, and we'll add 4 domain nuggets to that one.
Sweet.
Connor.
I'd like to give them to M's Curse of Strahd game.
Absolutely not.
Invalid request.
All right, I'll just eat them then. Toss them onto the Dragon Heist Mad Mage game.
The
You know,
All That Glitters?
Water Deep. Yeah, that one.
All right, and M.
Just to spite Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be selfish, and I also want them to be at the All That Glitters game because I am scared of the mega dungeon.
So we literally had, I was looking because I was setting up everything for that, for the new broadcast package, and we only had 1 domain die left at the end of the last session. So that'll set us up nicely for that. I have recorded all of those. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody in our audience tonight. We've had an incredible number of people. I don't know how many people are here. The counter has been all over the place. I know we got rated a couple times, and so that's very cool. So I know there's a bunch of you in there because I see chat just going. But it means a lot having you for this game. I see a lot of familiar faces that show up, not only to the other games here on Mini Terrain Domain and the other streams, but I see you showing up over on M's channel when we run our Curse of Strahd and other games. I see you and Alan's Curse of Strahd game on Fridays. I see you over on Erasmus Expeditions. I see you all over the place. I see you. It means a lot that you spread the love around our community, and we see so many familiar faces. If you're new here, if you're among the new faces, we do have a Mini Terrain Domain Discord. Everybody is welcome there. We have channels for all the different games. We've got a general chat. We have an after game chat that I'll pop in for a short bit. It's getting kind of late, but I will pop into the after show chat when we get off the air here. So feel free to stop on by the Discord, join us over there. If you haven't already, hit the little heart follow icon to follow the stream and be notified when we go live with other games. It's going to take me a while. I have a backlog, and my internet at home isn't as fast as when I used to be able to work in an office. But I'm working on the backlog of about 30 episodes of this campaign, getting them uploaded to YouTube. It'll take some time, but all of the VODs will eventually be up there, as well as all of our other games. So you can check those out there. But thank you all so much for going on this journey with us. Whether you're new or you've been with us for a long time, we love and appreciate you. And I want to say, at least within the confines of the Chult of Personality game, a final thank you to Mike, Kaeryn, M, and Connor, without whom it would just be me talking to myself for 3 hours. And for the last time, we are going to end this stream the way we've ended every other stream. And you can say it with me if you want.